Let's see if this on. Welcome to this press conference following today's Energy Council. I have with me Minister for Energy and Utilities Lars Aagaard and Commissioner for Energy Jørgensen, who will be ready to take your questions. But first we'll give the floor to the Minister and then the Commissioner for statements, and then I'll open up for questions. So, Minister.
Thank you very much, and thank you all for attending. It has been a very productive day in the Energy Council. As we have announced earlier, we have found common ground on the Repower EU proposal. I have called it the Freedom Package because it will effectively end the possibility for Russia to sell gas to EU energy consumers, meaning that we will stop sending our money to Russia. The package also includes a need for diversify the energy needs of countries that still rely on Russian energy, oil and gas. And that makes a very clear link to the next agenda point we discussed, because, I think everybody understands that all societies, all citizens, all industries need access to energy. Access to energy is the fundamental thing that allows our society to work, our democracy, that creates the needed economy for making sure that European has safe lives. So when you say goodbye to something, and now we effectively say goodbye to Russian gas, we also have to embrace something new. And it has to be now European energy that is grown in Europe. It has to be decarbonized, and that effectively means that it must be electricity coming from renewables and nuclear. So electrification is key to making sure that we on the longer term can secure the future for all Europeans. And we also got a very clear reminder on why we have to say goodbye to Russian gas, because we have invited Moldova and Ukraine to share their views on the energy development in their countries. And you should have a heart of a stone if you don't get moved by the challenges that are facing both countries, and of course what is happening in Ukraine with the ongoing attack on civilian energy infrastructure is heartbreaking to see. None of us would like to be in Ukrainian shoes, but what we can do is to show our commitment on short-term and long-term support, and member states did that. So a day where we said goodbye to Russian gas, we embraced the future that is a more electrified Europe, and we showed our unwavering commitment to support both Ukraine and Moldova. So a very important day, and I thank all member states for their contributions, because the presidency can conclude, but a presidency can only conclude with the support of member states. And I would also like to thank the Commission for your hard work in all the aspects mentioned here, because your role is also extremely central for making sure that we can move Europe into a more bright, more secure future. And I think the decisions that we made today has paved the way for that. Handing it over to you, Dan.
Thank you, Lars. So let me start by thanking the Danish presidency and you personally, Lars, for excellent work on a difficult file. It really is a historic day. We are none of us surprised, because we knew that there was a broad support for this effort. Nonetheless, one should not underestimate just how big of a decision this is. Also a difficult decision, and for some countries we know that there are challenges with regards to security of supply and of course prices, but we're working very, very hard with member states to make sure that we help them in a way that means that there will not be any security of supply problems and that prices will not go up. So we are committed from the Commission side on that. On Ukraine, obviously the recent attacks that continue on energy infrastructure is terrible, and we continue to condemn them, and we continue to help Ukraine as best we can financially and with technical assistance and so forth, and we will do that also in the winter that will come. Finally, I will mention that in our different discussions today, the issue of energy prices, of course, were also central. President von der Leyen mentioned this also in her State of the Union, assuring member states that we in the Commission are committed to the task of getting these prices down. Now, we have a lot of different measures in the Affordable Energy Action Plan that is being implemented now and that is showing results. And I will continue in the weeks and months to come to work closely with member states to make some of these different measures work also more efficiently on the short term. With those words, thank you, and we are ready to take questions.
And please just start with your name and the media outlet you're from. Yes, we can start here.
Hi, thank you, Pauline Denis, Agence Europe. My first question is, how are you answering concerns from member states who are saying there must be no replacement of one dependency by another dependency, and when are you expecting to start trilogues? My understanding is that it could start on the 6th of November, so that's a very strict deadline before the end of the year. So yes, thank you.
On the last question, our ambition is to conclude the Repower file together with the European Parliament. I sense from my good colleagues there that there is also awareness on their side to the importance that we will conclude the file before the end of this year. We want it to be out working in real life. We all are eager to see a ban on Russian gas. So we will start that as soon as possible, but I don't have the fixed date with me today. But we will do it as soon as possible with the clear ambition to conclude this year. To your other question, of course, being dependent is not a desirable situation to be in. And Europe are too dependent on importing of fossil fuels. There is no easy solution to that. On the short term, of course, there is a clear need to stop importing energy from Russia. But I agree with you on your question that there is no big perspective, long-term perspective in getting dependent on another single supplier of energy to Europe. So, therefore, I was very pleased that we also today had the first early discussion on an electrification strategy for European industries. Because what we need is to stop using fossil fuels in all sectors to get independent, and of course meeting our long-term climate target. But the answer to that challenge cannot be delivering no energy to European consumers, and therefore electricity is at the core of European strategy, and I'm looking very much forward to the action plan that the Commission will present later. It will not be negotiated under our presidency, but nonetheless it is tremendously important. The infrastructure package that will follow shortly is also part of this, because when Europe goes electric, of course we need the needed the infrastructure to support that. So here lies the long-term answer to your question, and there is no quick fix to Europe's dependency on fossil fuels, but the long-term answer is, of course, that we should be able to produce homegrown energy, and that means mainly electricity, and it must come from decarbonized sources of all kinds.
Yes, well, I totally agree, obviously. Maybe just a few points in addition. So we right now import on an average year for more than 400 billion euros of fossils. This is obviously not economically sustainable. For security reasons, it's not a very good position to be in either. The answer to this is, one, get rid of this dependency by producing our own energy, so more renewables. Two, get rid of this dependency by using less energy, so become more energy efficient. And three, the fossils that we then do need for the time that we need them, for those we need to diversify our supply, the supply side. So who do we import from? On all of these areas we are moving forward. So on the renewables, last year we deployed 78 gigawatts of new renewables in Europe. This year it'll be 89 probably, and next year hopefully it'll be even more so. We are moving in the right direction. On energy efficiency, well, we consume far less gas now than we did in 22, natural gas, partly due to the fact that we transform our production so that we use other sources than gas, but also because of energy efficiency. So if I don't recollect the numbers mistakenly, I think it is around 15 BCM, so billion cubic meters, that we consume less every year. In comparison, last year we imported 36 BCM gas from Russia. So in 2 or 3 years we will have cut our consumption with more than the combined import from Russia now. So this shows us that on one hand it's not at all an impossible task, but at the other hand it's not a small task either.
Nico?
Thank you. Sorry. Commissioner and Minister, the Hungarian Foreign Minister just said that Hungary is considering legal measures against the REPowerEU ban because they argue it is a sanction in content, not a trade measure, meaning that it would require unanimity.
So no, the legal basis of our proposal is quite clear. It is not a sanction. And the reason why we can use this legal basis is that the target of our prohibition is Russia, a country that has many times weaponized energy against us, and that is indeed not a credible trading partner. Even examples of blackmailing countries have found place. So for us, this is a very, very clear cut case.
And I will also just mention that the question had also been answered by the legal service that make it clear that there is a sound legal foundation for the agreement that we have made today. And if other countries then have the resources to go for something in the legal system, well, they are welcome to do so.
Hi, yes. Question first for the Commissioner. Is it the Commission's view that the Parliament position adopted last week is feasible in terms of the accelerated timeline? And for the Minister, 25 countries supported the REPower position today. Do you think they would be willing to go further in accelerating the timeline? Thanks.
So, obviously the Commission's position is what we put forward. Now it's up to Minister Aagaard and his colleagues in the Parliament to find a compromise. We are, of course, part of these negotiations also with the data required to help advise, but we think that our proposal is the one that strikes the right balance.
Yes, in an ideal world, we would be free of Russian gas tomorrow. However, we must make sure that the necessary alternatives are in place for all member states. And as the presidency, we have prepared a compromise text today that countries have agreed upon. And it is my duty as presidency to negotiate on the compromise text. And that is what I intend to do. The aim is to conclude the negotiation with Parliament before the end of this year. It might take some flexibility of all of us, and there's never a straight line from A to B in politics. But let's see, it always helps if you have a fixed deadline. And what I'm hearing from Parliament is that they also see that there is a deadline by the end of the year. So I hope and expect that we can agree, and the needed pragmatism will be there.
We have time for a few more questions. So Alice, go ahead.
Alice Hancock, Financial Times. 2 questions for the Commissioner, if I may. You mentioned prices. The Commission President wrote in a letter to EU leaders today about bringing forward short-term measures to lower energy prices. So I wondered if you could give us a flavour of what specifically those will be, or which parts of the Affordable Energy Action Plan you will accelerate. And also, of course, part of the Repower EU plan is to diversify. I just wondered if you could give us an update on EU efforts to simplify or to make easy the implementation of the methane regulation for US producers. Thanks.
So I will have to give you a small cliffhanger there, because tomorrow I'll be sending out a press release and talking to media on some of those measures that can fast track our affordable energy plan along the lines with exactly the objectives that you mentioned. On the diversification, we are, of course, working very closely with different partners. So Norway is, of course, our biggest source of gas. Number 2 on that list, I'm happy to say now, is the US. Why is that extremely positive? Well, because number 2 used to be Russia. And maybe I should also just use this opportunity to underline that when people talk about not replacing one dependency with another, I totally agree. We will not be dependent on any countries in the future. Hopefully we will produce our own energy. But having said that, we need to be very careful not to compare Russia and the US. Russia is an enemy. The US is not an enemy. We in the European Union have never had any objective to make less trade with the US. So yes, there's been some obstacles. Now there's an agreement. We want to trade more with the US, and that goes also for energy. Having said that, of course, there are different discussions where we maybe not see eye to eye on everything. The role of renewables is one very obvious example of that. On the methane regulation, I've stated several times that the regulation stands as it is, the objectives stands as they are, but we are always very willing to look at how to make it easier to implement, not only for countries outside the EU, but also for countries inside the EU that are having problems implementing it as it stands.
Yes.
Commissioner Johannes Peterer, Austrian National Television. How do you assess the behavior of several member states, including Austria? They want to review after 2 years whether the regulation leads to an energy shortage, and in that case have it re-evaluated, thereby leaving a back door open to import gas from Russia again.
So in my opinion, we should never again import gas from Russia. So this is also why I think it's extremely important that contrary to sanctions, which after a peace agreement probably will no longer be necessary, and contrary to sanctions that has to be re-evaluated and renewed, this is legislation, meaning that this will also stand in the future. I think it would be, even if and when there is a peace, it would be a big mistake to become dependent on Russian energy again. And even if and when there's a peace, I will not, and I think that goes for most member states and ministers and commissioners, start trusting Putin from one day till the next. So, in my opinion, this will stand in the future also.
Try to take the last two ones if you do it shortly. So Fabio first, and then Gabriel.
Yes, thank you for the floor. This is Fabio Napoli for the Italian news agency Public Policy. For the Commissioner on the energy highways, von der Leyen today said that the first pilot projects are going to start this year. I would like to know from you which ones. And then for the Minister, if the Presidency is ready to put in the agenda the proposal on the change of the seasonal time as asked from Spain. Thank you.
So on the energy highways, we are engaging with all of the countries that are affected by these projects, and we're trying to move as fast as we can on all of them. So let's see how soon we can do that. There's one that's already quite far, and that's the one situated in the country of Minister Aagaard, which is, of course, the Bornholm-Baltic Sea interconnector between Denmark and Germany. So that is quite far underway. It's one of the biggest payments from the CEF fund ever, if not the biggest. And that's a very positive example of what we want to do elsewhere in Europe also. And I also just want to use this opportunity to remind you all that in the next MFF proposal from the Commission, we have put forward a recommendation to allocate 5 times more money for CEF energy, so for connecting Europe in energy than what was in the previous MFF. And that, of course, shows you that we mean this very seriously.
And then the question to me on seasonal time, I mean, as presidency for the Energy Council, I took note of the request from my Spanish colleague, but it is so that the question is handled by transport ministers, and I will not decide on his behalf on what he will do with that request in this short time, but I understood that the Commission has tabled different kind of analytical work that could prepare such a discussion. But maybe, Dan, you have a comment on that.
Sorry.
Gabriel Gavin, Politico. Good evening. Question for the Commissioner. You have stopped short of bringing forward plans for a phase-out of Russian nuclear fuel as part of this initial package. Given that the European Court of Justice ruled in a state aid case against Hungary's PAX-2 nuclear reactor, do you think this is a time for the Commission to reflect whether it pursues an appeal in that case? Would you have any word for the Hungarians on whether to go ahead with PAX and whether Russian nuclear fuel is a dependable long-term bet for their energy mix? Thanks.
Well, I certainly am still of the opinion that Russian nuclear fuel is also something that we need to get rid of. Any dependency of Russia is unfortunate. Now, from an economic perspective, obviously, gas is more important. We're speaking about very, very large amounts, whereas nuclear fuel import to the entire EU, the countries that use this, is around 1 billion per year. So this is more of a political decision that we need to make. We do need to make it, but the financial economic urgency is not as big as on gas. We are still analyzing how to best do this and when to do it, and we will, of course, keep you all informed as soon as we are ready to do that.
Thank you. I think there might have been one question online that we'll try to answer afterwards with our experts. We have them in the room as well. If there are some technical questions, then we can help you out. Speaking of questions, I have promised at the end of every press conference to give you a little insight into Danish mentality. Having been a journalist myself for many years, I want you to be better at asking good questions. And one of the things that says something about the way we analyze politics in Denmark is that we love to use these old proverbs, sayings that can say something, for instance, about how you feel about someone else or another country. If you hear us talk about cows or camels or whatever, don't take it literally and come and ask me what we mean. The sayings that we have about oil and gas, and we do have sayings about that, I don't think are fitting for today. Giv den gas, eller at gyde olie på vandene. They get it. You can ask me for translation. Let's not go there. I found another one that I think captures what we want to achieve with Repower EU. Der lukket for den varme hane, which means the tap has been turned off. So with that, thank you so much for today.